The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful day. Now, for many people listening in North America, we can say good morning, okay? Yes. However, for people now that are listening from the Philippines, good evening, which brings us to our very special guest today. Very excited because we have Thomas Pecora in the house. Now, who is Thomas Pecora? Now, I don't want to do this injustice because I've always been known, Mike, to just, butcher names or butcher experiences. So I will do this justice right now because this is something that you guys need to listen to now. Now, Tom, he retired from the CIA as a GS-15, where he had worked in protective operations, counter-terrorism, and security training, and most of it operating in low-intensity conflict areas. He was the chief of security in Southeast Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East, and Tom was responsible for countrywide security programs ensuring the safety and security of all CIA personnel in high-threat environments. In addition to this, he's a seasoned protective operations veteran. He led teams protecting CIA personnel and visiting VIP personnel to include the president, vice president, as well as Senate and Congressional Delegations. Now, Tom spent 3 years providing protective operations training courses to foreign government protective services from Latin America, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Now, on top of all this, it gets even better, Mike. Tom received, there's more. Tom received the Intelligence Star, the CIA's second highest honor for valor, and the career, intelligence medical for service reflecting exceptional achievements. He's also wrote in a book called Guardian, which we're going to get into as well. And again, there's just so much more that we can pack into Thomas Pecora package. He right now is doing some incredible work where he's been able to put in this course that if anyone who, in my networks of law enforcement, security, LinkedIn, if you have heard of a course called Situational Awareness by the Akiri Group, he is the author and writer and designer of that program using all his years from the CIA to kind of put that into place. I hope I did you a justice here with everything that I just said.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And anything we missed, should we add maybe what your handicap is for golf?
Well, I'm lucky that I'm able to actually talk about some of these things because for 23 out of 24 years with the CIA, I was undercover. So I finally came out from cover in my last year at the agency. And then during the process of writing the book, I was able to put a lot of information through a publication review process. So I was basically told what I can and cannot talk about. So anything we talk about here, it has been approved, and it gave me some good latitude. I'll say that. I'll give you credit for that.
Can I ask, just for everyday people, how is it keeping your occupation secret? 23 of 24 years.
It sucks.
The average person can't keep secret.
You're lying a lot, and you're telling fibs to a lot of people that you like, friends, your family. They have to know some of what's going on. But yeah, it's difficult. It's definitely not fun. So it was nice to get out from under that.
Nice. Well, I was listening to an earlier broadcast that you did earlier, I guess, in the last year or so, where you referenced that how you got into the CIA was just basically just like kind of going through some ads, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of popping. So it's not like you said, I want to be in the CIA. It kind of came to you.
Yes, an ad in the newspaper. And this is back in roughly 1988. And at the time, there weren't a lot of jobs in the Milwaukee area. I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so I saw this ad in the newspaper and I applied. And about a month later, I got a phone call. And I almost hung up on the guy because I thought it was a prank from some of my buddies. And so I was like, this is serious. So I went for an interview, and then I ended up going to Washington and go through a battery of tests, polygraph, et cetera, and I made it through.
Amazing, amazing. And now your career doing this, how it started off and how you started evolving into basically where you got to. A lot of stuff that we talk about, Tom, is that the mindset of shifting and also getting into a place that you have a goal for, but also once you're in it, navigating around there. I'm sure that when you joined the CIA, there was many people in there that maybe had higher aspirations once they're in to move in certain areas and do certain projects or assignments. How did you like take on the approach of I'm coming into something brand new now that I just got off a job ad and now I'm in it. Here's how I want to navigate my career. And what did you do to kind of get there?
Oh, that's a great question. I was a big reader of spy novels, military adventures, all that, and so it was kind of a dream come true. And then I got hired and put into the security career track. And I will say that something that I didn't value that much when I first got in became very important in my career, and that was the ability to write. I went to grad school and got a master's degree in communications, which didn't give me much of a career vocation. But what it did is it forced me to write a lot. And then what I found in security, looking back in my career, that my ability to write was a key factor in my moving up through the ranks and getting positions of more responsibility and being successful in some of these war zones where basically I was creating order out of chaos. I was writing our security policies and procedures, not something that anybody really wants to do.
Right.
But my mindset, you asked about mindset. My mindset was I didn't go in there to become director of Central Intelligence. I went in there because I wanted to do some cool jobs, and so I navigated that way. And I had more than a few people tell me, that's not going to get you promoted. And I'm like, I don't care. This is what I want to do. I want to try this job. I want to do that. And that's why I ended up in doing so many different things at the agency, where I spent more than 7 years outside of security on rotation to the counter-terrorism center or on an operational side. So I got exposed to things that I would never have seen or done if I would have just stuck with the career path. So if I was going to give you some advice, is don't get too centered on climbing the ladder. That'll happen if you do good work, but find the work that interests you. And it's a lot easier to do well at those jobs when you have more passion for them.
Okay, that's great. I mean, you're basically saying, Tom, that focus where it matters, the work, right? There's a saying, don't follow the tongue that in someone's mouth, follow the tongue in their shoes, right? And anyone around you could recognize, and this is key for us because for our audience, we have a lot of people who are looking to get into law enforcement, do high level protection. What is the routes? Should they just have a boosted up CV, shake hands and network, and have really good breath everywhere they're going? Or should they, is there something that they can show in literally just disciplined work that is undeniable, a body of work where anyone around them says, this is someone that you can rely on. This is someone who takes the job seriously, puts great care. So I think that's great. I mean, it's always a good reminder that you roll up your sleeves and you put your best. There's a saying, the grass is greener, the greenest where you water. It's where you put the work. It's not on the other side. It's not somewhere else. Yeah. Okay. Amazing.
So let me ask you. Go on.
My background is I was a high school collegiate wrestler, and that's a very mission focused sport. I mean, I put basically everything into it, and so that's my kind of my personality. So when I got into the agency and started doing security work, I really threw myself into the work, and I wanted to learn the basics and then work my way up. And some people kind of wanted to get up in the ranks, and they didn't have some of the basic skills. So you don't want to shortchange yourself on some of the basics.
Interesting. No, that's really good. Like, it seems to me that the opportunities that you got in the CIA were opportunities that you just basically said, yeah, I'll do it. Like, it seems like when something came to your table, like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll jump on that. Where someone else, like maybe your colleagues, would have been like, as you said, why are you doing that? Or they didn't see that value into that.
Ultra selective.
Yeah, ultra selective, but it's for you. It's like you created your opportunity. That's what I'm hearing right now. You created them because
Oh
you were
yeah, there
open
were a
to
couple of
select.
times that where they said no, and I didn't believe them.
Right,
And
right, right.
I just worked. I just didn't take no for an answer on some of these jobs because one of the jobs was the counterterrorism unit. This was a, uh, a surveillance unit that went against terrorist groups, and it was very difficult to get in. There were only a few security officers that had ever gotten in there, like two. And I really wanted that experience. I wanted the training. It was the second longest training course in the agency. It was the real deep dive into all that is terrorism and counterterrorism. And I just fought like heck to get in, and it paid off. And I think if you by showing that effort and there's a saying, the cat principle. It never hurts to ask for what you want as long as you do it nicely. And that last part is kind of important too. And asking for help. Uh, that's a huge thing. It's gotten me places. And I don't want to jump too far, but mentoring is. I can't think of a single position I didn't have a mentor that was either above me at the same grade or below me. My last position
Okay.
was deputy chief of counterterrorism center. There was a lady who's an admin officer. She retired. She was on contract doing admin, and I was at her desk at least once a week, asking for help with one thing or another. And I mean, the advice she gave me was priceless, priceless.
Well, you've seen so much personalities. In your opinion, 2022 right now had a big career. What, in your opinion, are the attributes that you think make somebody a good CIA agent?
Well, there's so many different career tracks, and to give you an idea, let's look at the agency like it's a big Fortune 500 company. You've got HR, and you've got medical, and you've got logistics, and you've got the printing press people, and then you have the operational side, right? That would be for a sales business, they'd be the sales force. They're the varsity on the football team, and the rest of us are kind of the support element. I worked in the support side. There's three directorates basically back then: directorate of operations, directorate of administration. Actually, there's four: the directorate of science and technology, that would be the Q branch from James Bond, and then director of intelligence. They write the reports, the analysis that would go to the president. And being a support person, you've got to really be dedicated to supporting the varsity element, the operations officers. And if you didn't like that, I was told some of the security officers who thought, well, we're not part of the varsity. I said, try out, give it a shot. But for me, I really liked being part of the support element, helping with the mission, and looking for areas where I could really support, in with the characteristics and the capabilities that I brought to the table.
Okay.
I have something, so where that led you, I mean, that's amazing. This led you into a career that spanned the globe. Okay. And as per your CV, what Constantine was reciting off memory, which was pretty impressive. Okay.
Yeah.
It took you to some of the most dangerous places. What we've noticed, because we've had the privilege of traveling through the States. I mean, we do and facilitate high level trading here in Toronto, but we've had a chance to go throughout the States and meet people who this is their life. And we've noticed that the people who have worked in some of the most dangerous places are the calmest. Okay. And why is that? Why is it, Mr. Zealous, gum chewing, always flexing? How come that's not the guy who's usually coming from these danger zones?
That's a great question. And when I first came in, I was jittery. I didn't know what I was doing. It was my second job in the agency. I was working in the security duty office, and I worked with some seasoned guys and gals, and I learned that the source of their calm was their understanding of what they needed to do and what their responsibilities were, and how to support whatever they're doing. And knowledge, that understanding of looking at the big picture of what's going on, applying the principles, the concepts, the policies and procedures that they had at their fingertips. They were ready to go. They're ready to implement. And I got to see this happen.
Sorry, did I lose the video there?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
We can still hear you.
Okay, I fixed it.
Should be coming on.
See, we're not lying. This is across on the other side of the world.
I'm not.
Yeah, it might just be slow internet. You can still proceed. We're still good. We can hear you fine.
Yeah. What happened was I was one of the newest security duty officers at the CIA headquarters, and our job is to support all of the security elements or activities at CIA headquarters and through all the varied buildings we had in the area, in the WDC area.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an event that occurred one morning where a Pakistani terrorist attacked CIA headquarters, the area outside our main entrance, and the terrorist killed 3 of our people and wounded 2 more. And I was there during that entire event, and I got to watch people who were calm, collected, knew what they needed to do, and they did it. And then I got to watch people who were not nearly as effective, and it was life-changing for me.
Okay.
And,
so that alone, just being able to observe the 2 responses, right? Where
yes,
one had the composure and I guess the presence of mind to focus where they needed to.
Yes, and this was a very serious event. We didn't know what it was going on. We thought at first it was a disgruntled employee, and then it turned out to be a terrorist attack. And this happened before the first tower was attacked, Twin Towers in New York.
Okay.
This was January 1993.
Wow.
So
okay. Yeah,
it was an amazing. It was a pivotal moment for me. It was when I really decided I wanted to be working, against the terrorist groups. I wanted to be part of that world, and it also brought home the fact that this is really dangerous work, and that there are dangers and people lose their lives.
Can I ask you about that? I mean, like we unbox this often on this podcast about it takes a very special, unique individual, which goes against logic, to go into protection in any way, shape, or form in law enforcement, to look after the safety of others, people whose faces you may not even meet, who sometimes don't even understand your job and what you're doing. Mm-hmm. How do you, I guess, articulate what is that? When you said that you felt that was pivotal, you wanted to be part of the fight against terrorism. Like, what's happening? What's your internal dialogue? Is it just something that you think is a calling? Is it something internal that is so strong that unless you did this, you couldn't rest? So if you just took some type of Wall Street job that you knew that you would never have peace. Yeah, and I'm just trying to get an idea. Like, it's amazing that you've done it for so long, because if this was like a sign-up sheet and people could choose their life, I think the large majority would not choose the things that you've done in your career, maybe even yourself, if it was just a logical thing. Okay, so if you can just give us some idea, like, what was happening with you? What was happening, in your heart? Like, was it a real struggle, or you just knew I needed to do this, and that was enough to just take the next step?
I think I was always drawn to that, and I think there are some people who are very, and I don't want to say this in such a way that it makes them look bad. There are people who have strengths in certain areas, and others have strengths in a different area. If you have the strength and the commitment to be willing to take on the responsibility of other people's personal safety and even their lives, and put that in the palm of your hand, and really understand what that entails, and not do it superficially, then I think then you've really got the spirit of what executive protection is, or really what security is, or if you want to reduce it down to something not so life-threatening, customer services, supporting the other. I think I've worked with some people who were not so good at that. They were more, they get distracted by the politics or their career, and sometimes people let their actual performance slip. And for me, that there was nothing more important than the mission, keeping people safe. And I fought a lot of different battles with a lot of senior people, with that goal in mind. And sometimes they didn't understand me. They couldn't understand why they couldn't. I'm going to use the word motivate.
Okay, that's good.
Can you give us an example without, we don't need any juicy details, but just to give some context? I think that's pretty amazing. You just said that the drive to do that, even your superiors, they may not even always understood, and they didn't even understand you on why did you care so much. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah,
if you can
exactly.
Give us an idea of that dynamic.
I looked at it as that if I didn't give it my 100% best and somebody was hurt or killed, I would carry that for the rest of my life. And so having them hurt my performance review, or I not getting promoted, really pales when you compare it to the stakes that I was living. And that was what I did. I worked the war zones from 93 to 2013. I worked all the major war zones that we were active in. And I worked in some very bad places where people were at serious risk. And it's not easy. It's a tough job. But the sense of satisfaction is immense. And I was able to go through pretty much everywhere I worked. Luckily, with some wood, we didn't lose anybody really.
Yes.
And so sometimes I couldn't get management to understand that the risks they may be thinking about taking were really not appropriate. And sometimes it's just that they didn't understand what I knew. I had so much exposure where a lot of them, when we started doing Iraq and Afghanistan, they weren't, these people had never really been in war zones before. So it was tough for them to understand. A lot of them, they got smart quick, but sometimes in the beginning, it was trying to get them oriented and understanding that, we really have to follow these rules. And we do have to, sometimes, I'll give you an example. If you're part of a big organization and you have a problem employee, if you're in headquarters, you shuffle that off to the HR officers, basically personnel, right? And their supervisor. But when you're in a war zone in a base, like I was in a very large base in Iraq, if you have somebody that's having some difficulties, there is no one to shuffle off to. You have to make a decision. And sometimes when it involves some serious conditions, like somebody was having a PTSD issue, or is going through some trauma, you have to react very quickly because everybody's armed, or if they're not armed, they can get a firearm. And so it's not a minor deal. Everything has potential to go very badly.
And the stakes are high. The stakes are high.
Yes. We had an individual came in and previous trauma, and basically just couldn't function and was considered dangerous. And we had to disarm him and escort all the way onto an aircraft and back home. And management wanted to form a committee and look into the background. And I had to say, well, I'm the chief of security here, and I'll get to all that after I deal with the threat. And we'll. And so they had to learn, and I had to learn also. Everybody has to learn, but if you get good mentors, you can speed up your learning process.
No, that's fantastic, and I can also probably see that a lot of the strategies to your success, to your team's success, to staying alive, came from training. And it's also training that I'm assuming is continuously evolving because the criminal mind is continuously evolving. And can you speak a little bit about training? The stuff that you guys obviously kind of went through and put you in a position to best succeed on the job.
Yeah, I received a lot of training. Not a lot compared to like SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force, but we had specific training classes that we would go through in the beginning of our career, where we were doing background investigations and we were involved in personnel, the clearance process, where people were getting clearances. So we would learn a lot about some basic personnel security things. But then I got into the career track is called the multidisciplinary security officer, MDSO. And that means we go into like personnel security, and then we'll do a stint in physical security, and then maybe we'll do protection. Not many people did protection, but a few did. Or you can go to polygraph. So there's a variety of things you can get into, and you learn some through training, and then some through a lot of on the job. I was lucky enough to get into the protection stuff at the beginning of a special unit that was formed, originally formed in 1990, but the real unit was officially developed in 1991. And you might have heard of them. They were the group that saved the State Department personnel in Benghazi, Libya, on 9/11, 2012. This is the group that the movie 13 Hours, the book 13 Hours. That element was, up until Benghazi, was a classified unit, and we've been operating 1991 with nobody really knowing that we were operating all over the world, protecting our personnel.
Wow. So it doesn't get lost. The movie was 13 Hours. And if you don't know, you're not familiar with it, read up on it, or at least watch the movie. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, there's a new book that just came out about Benghazi, and it goes into detail about the terrorists that actually did the attack, and by a lady named Sarah Adams, and one of the protection officers that was a contractor working in Benghazi during that event. And this was a very experimental unit, in the sense that we had never done clandestine protection. And what I mean by that is super low profile protection, because the CIA operates in the world without any fanfare, we don't want anybody to know what we're doing, and we want to do it in public. So we can't have the traditional sunglasses, lapel microphone, and all that when we're going in these places, because that just will give away the operation of our case officers. And our case officers, ops officers, if I switch, they're the same term but different eras. And what this unit was created to protect our people who were under threat of a terrorist assassination. And that's what my book is, Guardians: Life in the Crosshairs of the CIA's War on Terror. Starts out with my career, but it really is the history of that unit, because I was in the first official training class, and I was in and out of that unit, and that's where we learned. We took information from Secret Service, from DEA in terms of undercover operations. We took training from the military. We worked with anybody and everybody to try to learn how to be stealthy, and we were extremely successful. I think up until 2013, we had never lost a protectee, and we worked in hostile places 365 days a year, and for years at a time. 5 years in one location, multiple years working in Israel, Gaza, etc. It was an interesting time. The name of the unit started out as Protective Operations Cadre, and then it switched to the Global Response Staff, the GRS. And at one point I was a senior team leader in it, working with teams in a couple different locations in the Middle East. So it's a different way of looking at protection.
Do you miss it? Like, I mean, like, I know you've been out of the game right now for like a couple of years. Do you miss the the life?
A little bit, but a cat only has so many lives. I kind of lost track after a while, and I thought, you know what, I'm getting a little long in the tooth. What I really enjoyed was I got a chance to get good at a few different things, and then I got a chance to do training to train people, which actually really honed my skills. Because to really be good at training, you really have to understand it much more than on the superficial level. So when I did 3 years training presidential protection details in South America, Asia, the Middle East, Colombia, etc. And I got a chance to work with Secret Service retirees that were working with us, including one gentleman. His name, he's now passed away. His name is Jerry Parr. And you might remember that name. He was the guy that saved Ronald Reagan. He was the detail on Ronald Reagan's. So listening to him tell that story the hair would go up on the back of my neck. It was just fantastic. So I got a chance to work with some really super people, and I learned a lot about how other countries did their protection. And then I brought it back to our own element, things that we could use in terms of clandestinely operating. And the best way to explain that is we would not travel in Suburbans, in motorcade formation with lights on or anything. We travel in sedans. We would do unorthodox motorcade movements. We would camouflage our vehicles to look like local vehicles. We do basically anything to make us look like just anybody else, or give us enough time to where the bad guys looking at us and like, as we go by, they're thinking to themselves, who are those guys? And by that time we're gone.
Yeah, just enough to blend in. The goal was to blend in.
Yep, blend in. If you can't see us, you can't shoot us.
That's it.
They say you can't hit a target you don't see, right?
And I don't see you right now, so yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. Let's see. Maybe Tom, take 10 seconds away from some of the stories and just see if you can re-engage your video. Let's try one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see your logo.
Yeah.
Let's see if that comes back on.
If not, that's fine. We can put some nice pictures and do like a collage of pictures.
Yeah,
that's fine.
No, okay, we'll try it.
No worries. So look, why don't we do this? So a lot of the stuff that you did, and you know, the success that you had, and also what's kind of being on there had to do with, you know, being aware of your situational awareness, right?
Yeah,
so to me, that's one thing I want to kind of concentrate on right now, because training is a big piece. Obviously, we're a company that strongly supports training, and not just any training, just you know, training that can really benefit you, advance you, and really give you a perspective on how to do your job and maximize it. Now, we're living in a time frame right now where, you know, the world is more dangerous. That's the truth. If anyone out there thinks it's you know, a place of, you know, roses and all that, sure, there's elements of that, but we do live in a world right now that, you know, we have to almost be on guard. And I love what I've been hearing. So many people have been talking about this situational awareness. It's all I really see. I just got my certification, and at the beginning, thinking, what is this? Like a program put through a Curie group, which, for those listening right now, Tom is the author of Situational Awareness. You created this based on all your experiences with the CIA, and to me, I have not done it, but I'm on the verge to, and I really want people like me who have been just seeing so many people do this, be open to know what exactly are you walking into and what can this do for you. By the way, disclaimer, this is not just for law enforcement communities, the security industry. This could be for everyone and anyone.
Yeah.
So I want to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, to give you a little background on how we operate in the agency, I mentioned before we're clandestine. So we don't want to come up on anybody's radar. And that's where the gray man concept comes in. But
Yes.
it's more than that. To operate overseas, we can't be getting mugged and murdered and having any interactions with law enforcement or the official community. So we kind of went with this kind of what we call a 90-10 policy, which was 90% on avoidance and 10% on mitigation. And we had a very big stick we used on our people. Basically, if you get in trouble overseas, you just don't go overseas anymore. So people were really motivated to avoid getting into trouble. And then we added training on being aware of your surroundings and having the ability to look at the environment, to know what potential threats are in the environment, and then learning the characteristics of those threats so that you can observe, orient, and decide and act. That's the OODA loop, or observe, recognize, and react to a potential threat. Now, we had to teach not only our ops personnel, but later on, as we started bringing more and more people into the war zones and low intensity conflicts, we had to train a variety of people, logistics people, admin people. And so we started training programs that would enhance their ability to learn about their environment and use their environment to help them be safer and to avoid threats. Now, one of the real big mantra we use is choose safety. Basically, don't take a chance if you don't need to, regardless of how it may seem to somebody later. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. There's a reason why these old sayings are still around. And so when I came out of the government and I started working in the private sector, I realized that situational awareness was getting just too much lip service, but not any real depth. And it was any real training was being given to law enforcement, security, or the military. But the rest of the population could definitely use this, especially in places where crime is on the rise or where terrorism is starting to be a threat. But it's even more than that. It's threats like extreme weather or other things in the environment. So we developed a training program called Situational Awareness Specialist course, which was brought down to the most basic level. And then we layer up the information so that anybody can take the course and learn step by step how to re-examine their environment and to build in those capabilities into their everyday life. And we use a lot of analogies of driving. When you first start to drive, you're nervous. You're looking around. You don't even know what you're looking at. It's like when you're in with a driver instructor. And they're saying, are you looking in the mirror just to look in the mirror, or are you looking in the mirror to see something? And what this training is about is to have a reason to be looking, because they say, keep your head on a swivel, be aware of your surroundings. But if you don't know what to look for,
yes,
it doesn't matter how observant you are. So we start talking about the basic threats and understanding that, because once you can recognize a threat, and ideally you are aware enough of your surroundings to pick up on the threat early enough, you have options that you will not have in the reaction mode. And that's where we look on.
You just reminded me, we do close protection training and introductory course here, and I remember that was the instruction about making sure that you're looking left and right, and then everyone magically looked. It seemed like they were at a tennis match, just swinging their heads to the extreme, and until we realize, okay, like you need to. There's a point to doing this. It's not just the action. So with situational awareness, you're totally right when you share that sometimes it's the impact on how loaded and how important that word is sometimes lost, because it's becoming like more just everyday lingo, right?
Right.
It's just kind of thrown in there. From your background, I would just like you to get the attention of the cool guy in the back of the class who's maybe nodding off at the word situational awareness.
Yeah, what do I need that for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say to that? Like, how do you wake them up? Like, what does this actually mean? Okay, because
It,
I just want to make sure. I think people are getting a little too used to the word, not really understanding how it, like what do they need to know about that?
well, it's the most basic part of personal safety. It is the ground floor of all personal safety training. And I mean that because before you can really apply firearms training, maybe your concealed carry training, or even physical self-defense, you want to be able um, to look at your environment and gather data that will help you recognize threats, make good decisions, and implement emergency action plans efficiently. And the uh, being situationally aware is not being paranoid. It's building habits like we do when we drive. When we're driving on the highway, we're not afraid, even though it's a very dangerous activity. We are looking at the cars, and we're oftentimes picking up on very small details, like when somebody ahead in front of us on the road, their head turns a little bit to the left, their shoulder dips. We 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 just know that they're going to turn. They're going to put a blinker on and turn. And before they put the blinker on, we know they're going to do this because we picked up on some of these nonverbal signals, and our ability to read the environment, and the environment threat wise in most cases involves humans. And in almost all cases, it involves an anomaly in the environment, something different than the norm. And that's
Wow,
why
well, that's amazing.
we look at baselines. We use the word baselines. Baselines mean what is normal in your environment. And we are so good at picking up on this that by the time we're an adult, we're doing it without even thinking about it. And what we have to do is kind of pull that out of the subconscious and move to the conscious mind and go, okay, what is it that I'm doing here? Well, I'm scanning my environment. I'm in microseconds looking at people and their behaviors and assessing, because there's a small part of our brain that's old as humans go, that is on the tip of the spine, at the bottom of the brain. And that little part of the brain does nothing but look at everything from the point of view of friend or foe. So it's helping us decide, and we use color codes to help us with awareness, to understand the different levels that we go through, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah,
When we're
you're
sleeping, or you look condition white, when we're sleeping or we're engrossed in a book or a movie, that's condition white. We are completely oblivious to what's going on around us. We are not mindful of our environment. Now, as humans, we have to have that time, but we have to do that in a secure location. But when we leave that secure location and we go out into we call street condition, then we want to be in condition yellow. Condition yellow means we're aware of the surroundings. We're cataloging people and activities and objects, but we're not really focusing on anything. But the moment something causes us to focus, that's where that little part of our brain is really closely looking at it from the point of view, friend or foe. And if we decide this is a potential foe, we move into another level of awareness. And that's condition orange, and then red. Red means it's a threat, but the moment we start to focus on something, that's condition orange. So we use these color codes just to kind of get a better describing what our mind is doing when we are in the environment, and how it's going. Our thought patterns are going to change depending on what we see in the environment. But ideally, if we spot the threat or the potential threat early enough, we have more time and space, which gives us much better opportunities to avoid. And avoidance is the way to go.
Absolutely. This is so good.
It's amazing.
Like, because to me, like the skill that you're getting from this is that the ability to have another tool in your arsenal, that if I need to tap into this to make sure that my outcome of safety happens, you're always aware of that. Like, I mean, it's as you said. Now, for something like this course, it's a 1 day course?
Yes, it's a 4-hour course. Now we pack in as much information as we can. They don't get they get 10-minute breaks every hour, because we're trying to give this idea, the situational awareness, um, the give people the ability to grasp it and turn it into a system. So in other words, we start out at concepts that are mental, and then we move into the physical and how we are applying these skills in real life. It's only something that you can master by doing. It's like again, another car driving analogy. If I sit down with a new student and I do a driver's ed with them, I don't care how great I am as an instructor, they're never going to be a great driver at that moment. They need to get out on the road and drive.
Yeah.
And this is situational awareness. It can only really be learned by applying the lessons, the concepts and lessons, and the skills in the street. And we have an advanced course which is very specific to law enforcement and security, where we apply those same principles, but we do it in a targeted audience. We specifically are looking at the threat of organized crime and terrorism.
Perfect. You give them the skills to what they need to do. Now it's up to you now to take those now and apply them and practice them. It's like what I tell my kids, and like my daughter. You have a guitar, you go do your lesson for 30 minutes. It's now what you do in the week now before your next lesson, right? And you got to apply this and make it almost a game. Make it almost a game. Like, how am I going to make sure? What am I going to look out for now? How do I check this up? Well, that's fantastic.
Where does someone find the course? How does someone find it, and how is it available to them?
If you look up your Curie group, and that's ARCURI group, or you put it, if you type in situational awareness training, it'll come up. And it's we have courses at different times, and right now it's all in Zoom because we're getting out of the COVID. But we're planning on doing in persons. Our course is credentialed in quite a few states in the United States for use by law enforcement, and they get continuing educational credits. I also teach an undergraduate course at Wright State University. I'm an adjunct professor there. So our material has been vetted by universities, and there's another university up in Durham University up in Canada, where it's.
Oh yes. Okay,
yeah,
nice.
Us.
So Tom, would you recommend, if someone's done this course, would you recommend that they, make it a point to do a refresher yearly so they can be in tune and make sure they haven't missed anything? Like many elements of coursing have yearly refreshers, right? Would you suggest something like this could also be put into a refresher setup, or once you got it, I think.
But what we like to do is because it's a certification course, you have to take an exam, and it's not easy. And people have to study, and they we combine that with we give some free training a couple times a year, and I also write articles I put on LinkedIn so that everybody can get them. So I've got a bunch of different articles where I'm applying situational awareness, and we're on LinkedIn. We're also part of a group called the Worldwide Situational Awareness Group. So we're always talking about it. So there's lots of detail there. Now the security, law enforcement, military, people who have advanced training and have duties where they're going to be potentially working against organized crime or terrorist groups, we have an advanced class that we teach, and that's very, very specific to them. But the average person, we've got social work professors in India that have taken the course. Most of my students at Wright State University are in the pharmacology and toxicology areas, healthcare, and you can name the profession. We've had people take the course, and they were able to apply it to their specific occupations easily, because it is such a bare basic skill that people are applying it for almost every emergency situation, because if you know what the elements in the environment are going to be useful to you in an emergency, and you've got that plotted in your head, and you've got an emergency plan laid out in your head already, you're going to move so fast. You're going to be ahead of pretty much everybody else in a fire, extreme weather, terrorist attack, etc.
No, that's amazing. And to me, I've seen so many videos of things that have gone tragically wrong, and the commentary is always, if this person looked at this body language, if this person had looked at their environment, if this person, all of these things could have been avoided. I think this is something that is like a life tool from what I'm hearing today, Tom. It's a life tool that
Yes.
I think is integral to what we are as a society need.
Yeah, you're kind of building like a lens for people to see the world in a different way, opening their eyes more so that they can see and be a little bit more present and to keep safe. I know that, because we've worked in security for so long. I inherently do this with my wife and my kids everywhere we are, always kind of gauging what's around us, what's happening with the cars, the bikes, the guys on the street, the guys coming out of the buildings, and sometimes, my wife has even said to me, hey, can we just get your attention? Right. And I'm like, no, you have my full attention. Let's just, and then other times I've said, okay, look, let's walk this way. And it's been like, no, we're not going that direction. And I said, look, just trust me, let's just go this way. And like a fight broke out and it would have spilled into our 3-year-old. Okay, something like that. So, and I we all inherently have it. We see a kid walking close to the street. We think, are they going to cross the sidewalk and actually go into the street? Right. And I think it's taking that skill set and enhancing it. If you've never had a chance to do situation awareness training, we're going to put it up, Thomas, on our feed. We'll have it in the description for this video as well as the podcast so that people can find it easily. And, we want people, everyday people, this is incredibly advantageous, whether you're in law enforcement or not. It's great to be able to understand what is my surrounding and how do I just be safe within it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
And
good.
we play a little game we call the what if game. And it's just what you're talking about. I actually trained my daughter when she was little. We'd go into a restaurant and I'd say the game was when we walk in, you pick out the alternative and emergency exits. And then as she got better and better, we started adding more and more things. Everything like where are the bathrooms, where all the way up to fire extinguishers, fire alarm boxes. Where's the AED? So by the time we would sit down at the table, it was already plotted. So anything that happened, we already knew where we were going to go. And then,
Tom, I would love to jump in your brain, man, and
Yeah,
just
this is amazing.
see how you think all the time. Like, I mean, just opening up the fridge. Okay, are the eggs in the proper area? Like, you must look at everything.
well, when you build it into a habit, you don't even think about it. I fly, I used to be a million miler on planes, and I tell people the first thing I do when I get on a plane is I pull that safety card out and I look at it. I look at the exits. I plan my seats. I want to be within 4 aisles of the exit because they've done the studies. If you're in the middle of the plane, 4 aisles away from the or seats away from the exit, you have the best chance. I want to be an aisle seat, and I want to know where the exits are. And also, in those safety brochures, they tell you how to operate the emergency doors. Do you pull up and push out, or do you push down and pull in? Well, I want to know that because I plan on being the first one at the door.
Yeah,
So I want to
exactly.
operate it.
I love
And
that.
after
Wow.
that 1 minute of glancing, I put it away and I'm good to go.
And you have a peaceful sleep. I love it. It's amazing. Yeah, prepared. I love it too. I mean, I hope your daughter's working in protection. You've been training her well.
She protects kids. She's a kindergarten teacher.
Amazing.
Kindergarten Cop. It's a great movie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No, Thomas, this has been fantastic. I mean, I'm very much intrigued right now. And again, I love bringing things back to our organization as well. Again, this is something that I've seen so well. So first of all, a big shout out to the Curia Group and to yourself for putting this out and for doing so well, because again, it's always on my feed. And again, I'm really glad that you opened it up into what exactly you're going to experience. I think it's a very valuable tool, and I think it's something that we all need. And sometimes I think what it does, it speaks to our internal protector, which, we referenced that everyone has it inside them. I think something just wakes it up a little bit more and saying, be alert, be aware. That's so good. Let me ask you a question. How did you end up in the Philippines, out of curiosity?
I was posted there during my career. Out of 24 years, the longest I spent in one place was the 3 years I was posted in the Philippines. And I made so many friends here. And then I came back for work, and I just I don't like the cold. I live near a beach. It's pretty good for retirement or semi-retirement, I'd say.
Some incredible coral and reef formations in those waters, man. I'm very jealous right now.
Yeah, there are thousands of islands.
That's incredible. So I really want to thank you for sharing this with us today. The journey that you had with the CIA and to where you've been able to write a book called, by the way, Guardian. Where could someone find that book if they wanted to dive a little bit closer in?
It's on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle.
Okay, perfect. And then to bring you then to what you're doing right now, I mean, kudos to you. I think it's phenomenal. I think your whole life has come to this point where, meaning as in all this has brought you to this point, and you're opening up the next chapter right now. And yes. Judging by just how we've been conversating today and how you've been moving, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more things tucked in your sleeve, things that are going to be released. Yeah. In the near future, because you're doing a phenomenal job, just kind of like pushing it out there and making, as you said, bringing it to a basic level, which I think is so important, because again, we're basic people in the sense of we just tell me how it makes sense in common day terms, right? And you've been able to articulate that. I'm very, very, very happy that you've been able to do that, and I'm actually looking forward to diving in right now. Like I said, I'm bringing this back to our organization, Mike.
Yeah, 100%.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, look, thank you so much. We're going to put a bunch of links out to kind of guide it to there. I really want to thank you for your time. I know right now we're probably hitting just after midnight, so we're probably in Thursday right now.
Yeah.
In the Philippines. But thank you so much, Tom. And, I really, really value what you're doing. And thank you for the service, man, that you did. Thank you for putting all that, man, putting your life on the line with your colleagues to make this stuff happen over the last 20 plus years. It's one of those things that I think we kind of go by really quickly. So thank you for that as well.
Yes.
It's a vocation. I've enjoyed it. It's my passion, helping people, keeping people safe. So I'm just continuing on with that same vocation.
Yeah, mission, as the wrestler put it.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and by the way, from what I also understand is you still are very much involved in teaching wrestling now.
I was coaching up until I got here. Unfortunately, I there's no wrestling here anymore. But I'm helping out with. I'm going to be helping out with some jiu-jitsu guys. They need some help with their takedowns.
Nice. I know they're big on weaponry there, Cali and Inez.
Yeah.
So yeah, amazing. Yeah, take them down, man. Take them down.
Amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Pecora, thank you so much. Appreciate you, man, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, take care, everybody.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.